How many cannabis jobs are supported in the industry? Spoiler alert, it's over 420,000. We're going to talk about Leafly's cannabis jobs report coming up.
It's only entertainment.
Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast.
So breaking that down, 33% increase in jobs in a single year, and the fifth year in a row where jobs increased at least 27%. So we're going to dive into a couple of examples of where jobs have been allocated at, as it still kind of is at the prohibition, or at the federal level. So there's not a whole lot from the Bureau of Labor Statistics with regards to cannabis jobs. So Whitney Economics doing a great job out there. If you're not following him on LinkedIn, you should. But let's take a look at some 9 states that are indicating some market trends this year. We might be able to pull some data, kind of see where things might be headed all over the place. Starting in alphabetical order with Arizona in 2021, they had roughly 2,600 jobs. They added 2,600 jobs. So total about 23,000 legal cannabis jobs. It's about a 31% boost in 2020. They also boosted sales, 1.3 billion from the medical dispensaries. You have another 320 million more from medical only in 2020. 1.3 billion was last year in 2021. So I mean, that's why they're wrecked, because they saw the money in there. Might as well. I would imagine the east of the state is seeing a ton of flow from Texas. California, on the other hand, 420 million in legal regulated cannabis sales in the state. They saw 5.1 billion last year. They're supporting 83,000 jobs and a 64% growth rate in 2020. It's kind of monstrous out there. I mean, the industry is kind of all over the place, but putting in some pretty crazy numbers. They do have their own issues with taxes. San Francisco basically had to kind of put a pause on that. Everyone else was kind of hoping that they would do that for the rest of the state, but San Francisco is just kind of struggling no matter what, it seems like. One interesting takeaway from California, only a third of the state allows it. So when you look at something like 75% in New Jersey is not going to allow it, how bad is that? Well, a third, it's only a third that allows the sale of regulated cannabis in California. So they're going to have to open that up. Washington State incentivized counties by the tune of over $7 million to allow for cannabis. So if they wanted an additional $7 million in free money, all they got to do is open some cannabis stores. So there's your incentive. Moving on to Florida's medical boom that they've seen 1.5 billion is in sales last year, supporting about 26,000 jobs. Florida is improving their numbers. They have about 400 dispensaries, a 33% increase from what they had a year ago. And according to the medical patients being 3% of the state's 21 million residents, they could, in theory, if you look at the 1.3 billion in sales they had the first year, they could pretty come close to California with 4 billion in annual sales and more than 70,000 jobs. Illinois, 1.7 billion in sales and about 29,000 jobs. Sales in Illinois were up 73% in 2020. That's pretty good, to almost double that. They only had 103 adult use stores and 55 dispensaries. So they've got Illinois licenses, only 12 stores per million residents. So that's pretty bad. If you compare that to like Oregon at 181 stores or Massachusetts at 54, Illinois is a pretty limited license state if you look at it that way. Massachusetts, still fairly small at 1.6 billion, supporting 27,000 jobs. That 1.6 billion represents 81% increase in sales from 2020. They've got 387 rec shops. So not a lot, but pulling in some good dough. Michigan, their sales were up 81% in 2020 to 1.8 billion and 31,000 jobs. It's a 72% annual growth rate. We talked a little bit about New Jersey kind of being not allowing a lot within the state, having 3/4 of the county saying, no thanks, not in my backyard. The NIMBY crowd, not in my backyard. 189 million in sales might change some things. They're supporting at least 3,000 jobs. So they've got some ways to go. But they've only got 23 dispensaries for 123,000 medical patients. So once that floodgate opens up, they're going to be hiring a lot more. New York, similar. They've got 2,300 jobs, pulling in 149 million with only 40 licensed dispensaries. So that is not a lot. They could use a lot more, though. They're looking at 140,000 medical patients in 2021. They could spend 378 million a year, and that would support more than 6,000 jobs. Not to mention tourism. Once that goes regulated, they'll have a pretty decent tourism in New York. I still don't see it surpassing California, just based on the tourism they already have and the deep culture there. It would take a lot of tourists interested in cannabis for New York to overtake California. And then last but not least, Oregon. Oregon got only $1 billion in cannabis sales, 7% increase, and they're supporting about 20,000 jobs. I want to roll down to Portland, Oregon. You can buy 2 ounces now per store, and you can buy an ounce for around $20 a piece. So I'm going to roll to about 8 stores, do the math, and I'm going to do a podcast on it. And we're going to see what a pound looks like in an afternoon, spending about $300. And we're going to see what that looks like. I might even roll up a 2-foot joint, maybe. And it depends on who's with me. If it's by myself, I'm not rolling that up. So don't hold me to that. But Oregon is one of the more mature markets. They still allow you to open up the jars and smell it, rather than having it be in this Mylar bag. So slow, steady growth down there. It's been an interesting market in Oregon. Kind of learn a lot from failures, and I've seen a lot infighting and product arguments and trying to expand too fast and crumbling as a result, and not being able to withstand regulatory issues where they try to ban all concentrates. And they pulled them off the shelf for a while, which is why I tell everybody to go with a solventless product, so you at least have something if or when regulators lose their minds. So Oregon and Washington and Oklahoma, all states to look at as a petri dish and decide what not to do. But regardless, looks like jobs are here to stay. They should kind of expand as automation kind of comes in and disrupts a lot of these jobs. You don't need 18 people making pre-rolls, for example. You can reallocate that human capital, put them into sales roles, and get a lot more ROI on that. But regardless, it looks like with over 420,000 jobs, cannabis is here to stay. Revenue's there. People are seeing it, and they're not going to be able to get that genie back in the bottle.
With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is The Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.